Hi, everyone. Welcome to Show and Tell for the month of June. We're going to go ahead and get started. People are entering into the webinar now. So happy that you are here for our monthly hour of conversation and inspiration. Today, we are going to have presentations by the men's team and the accessories team. So we're really excited for that. Just a quick housekeeping note. Usually we do these webinars the first Wednesday of every month, but next month, just because of the Independence Day holiday here in the US, it'll be the second week of the month. So Wednesday, July 10th is when the July show and tell will be happening. And we'll remind you of that via email as well, but just mark it on your calendars. Next month's show and tell will be on Wednesday, July 10th. So as always, we love to hear your questions and feedback and comments, everything that you are loving as we roll through the links today. Please use the chat box. Just make sure to choose the pull down for everyone so that all of our attendees and guests can see your comments or questions. Just a reminder, we will be sharing a recording of today's presentation with you later this week, along with a document of all the links. So don't feel the need to write everything down as we go. And if you want to see any previous FS show and tells, you can find them on our YouTube channel, or if you are a client, you can find them on our webpage. I'm going to turn it over to Ellie from our marketing team to go over a couple of upcoming, really exciting events that we are doing.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. I'm Ellie, Marketing Manager at FS. So before we dive into this month's show and tell, I just wanted to talk about an exclusive event that we're hosting tomorrow in London following our recently announced partnership with Plastic Free to celebrate our collaborative white paper, The Post-Plastic Economy. So Plastic Free is an organization that is building for an economy beyond plastic. And together we're hosting an event where you will gain exclusive insights into how the plastic free movement is transforming the economic landscape. So we will show you how embracing this shift can future-proof your bottom line, unlock substantial cost savings, and open doors to untapped opportunities. Space is limited, so we encourage you to submit your interest today to attend, should you be located in the London area. Again, it's a morning event, so it's a great way to start the day before heading to the office, and we'd love to see you in person. We will share the link to submit your interest in attending in the chat. But should you not be able to attend, we encourage you to submit your interest in the white paper that is launching tomorrow to be one of the first to receive all of the insights, case studies, and data straight to your inbox. We will also share the link to sign up for the white paper waitlist in the chat in a few moments. And lastly, just wanted to add that we have many, many events in addition to this one coming up this month. We have, for instance, a webinar series on fashion and material sourcing trends with Magnet, where Michael will be hosting one of those digital sessions on men's trends. And we'll also be at Outer Retailer, where we would love to meet up in person. So don't hesitate to visit fashionsnoops.com/events to learn more and register. But that is all for me. Back over to Michael.
Thanks, Ellie. Yeah, if anyone would like to learn more about what Plastic Free does, we have some really interesting posts on our Instagram account. So please do follow us on Instagram at Fashion Snoops, and you can learn more about them as an organization. All right, we're going to jump over to the links. Bear with me for just a second. Again, we have the men's and the accessories teams presenting today. So we're going to jump right into our conversations. And that would be with the men's team. And so I'll put on my other hat So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Fisher, the VP of Menswear, and I'm joined here today with Jason Kress, who's our senior strategist, and Michael Leahy, who's one of our analysts. And we're going to take you through some cool topics that are on our radar right now. We're going to start with an Instagram account. I know a lot of people on our team brought this to our attention over the last month, and I am obsessed with this guy. This is an account called Amy Leon Dad, which of course is a take on fan favorite Amy Leon Dore. He describes himself very simply, his account, he describes it as just basically he creates inspired fits by ALD lookbooks to see if they work on me, a slightly overweight 40-year-old dad. He's so amazing. In addition to those, which I'll play one for you in just a second, he also does a really lot of cool discoveries of vintage products that he just kind of finds in the marketplace and sees if they work in various contemporary ways. But he's known for trying to recreate lookbooks and trying to see if a middle-aged dad can pull off these very on-trend looks. So I'm going to play one for you. This is looks like he's done 30 of the Amy Leon Dore lookbook recreations at this point. So when you get a chance, follow him on Instagram. You can see he's a lot of followers at this point, but I'm going to play one for you now just to see. It's really funny. So here we go.
Let's recreate this Amy Leon Dore look to see if it can work on me, a 40-year-old dad. Okay, what do we got here? Yeah, I like this one. I'm into wearing sweatpants with woven shirts, but I think tucking the woven shirt into the sweatpants can be a little weird sometimes. But the main thing is I have a shirt that's very similar to this, but instead of red, navy, and gold, it's green, navy, and gold. So I'm going to try and do this look with a very ALD shade of green and see if it works. And I think it might actually work better. I'll show you what I mean. So like I said, the shirt is very similar. This is an old polo flannel in like a regimental stripe, but it's green instead of like dark red. But with this color combo, tennis sweater over the shoulders, I tucked the shirt in. I'm not sure I would normally do that. But yeah, I think this looks pretty good. I like it with the green. I think the green and the navy are great. Yeah, Amy Leon Dore.
So really funny. I love his sense of humor. Sometimes the looks really fail, and he just really makes do with what he has in his closet. It's almost all vintage, Patagonia, Brooks Brothers, polo, on and on. But he also does other things like looks inspired by various movies. He'll find like this old picture of Ralph Lauren wearing like a turtleneck sweater with like tennis shorts, and so he tries to do that version. But he's lots of really good posts just to dive into. But I think that what we really loved about this is just this super strong focus on authenticity, which is coming over. And a lot of times, we've been talking a lot about in menswear that a lot of unlikely people become influencers. A lot of our narratives last season, we were finding influencers who were just everyday workers, like lobster fishermen. The New York Times did a whole article on it. So just seeing that like everyday suburban dads kind of do these recreations of trendy fashion is another extension of that, which is just a lot of fun. My next link today is kind of a good take off of that, and this is very marketing driven. So Dwell did a great article on just basically fashion ad campaigns embracing this kind of rec room aesthetic in a lot of their advertising over the last few months. I'll kind of scroll through just for some images while I bring it up, but this really started about 2 years ago. And they kind of like called it like a lot of the art direction, Grandpa's Lake House, which is really interesting. There's been a lot of campaigns that have popped up in bedrooms, kitchens, living rooms. And it definitely is, part of this heritage resurgence. A lot of people, actually a writer in this article jokingly calls it trickle down Bodhi. And I know a lot of you have seen us in presentations over the last year. We talk a lot about the Bodhi effect. and how them as a small brand have just impacted everything from design at specialty retailers and fast fashion to marketing and advertising. And I'd say Amy Leon Dore is also a big part of that. But you can kind of like scroll through here and see other examples of this very specific look. But a lot of the campaign images from everyone, Bodie, Nike, Kith, Amy Leon Dore, J. Crew, they all have fairly similar backdrops of wood paneling, vintage inspired decor like quilts, record players, chess sets. And it's definitely evolved to feel very much everyday living setups. Also, another really great example. Last year, the brand Goodspeed, they shared photos of a bandit running campaign that was shot in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And it was in an apartment. Actually, that's this one up here. You can see. And, again, they describe it as like trickle down from a Poconos cabin vibe that she had noticed earlier. So there's chess sets, there's vintage trunks, the models posing in like athletic gear in front of like an air conditioning. So it's just very common, like everyday vibe. And according to this woman in the article, Eliza Brooks, she's a freelance fashion and design writer. She coined the term finished basement core like 4 months ago in a newsletter post that was inspired by a lot of the Giacomo and Miu Miu holiday campaigns. And again, it's just really all about nostalgia. Basically, they say if you're hanging out in a finished basement, you're a teenager again. Those interior spaces, like bedrooms with posters on the wall, can instantly take you back to your childhood or teenage years. So, we're seeing a lot of that. Here's the Miu Miu campaign when they teamed up with New Balance, really similar vibe, more minimalistic. And then they asked at the end, like, where does it go from Grandpa's Lake House? And if you look at a lot of recent campaigns like Elder Statesman, Reformation, Marc Jacobs, a lot of the campaigns are actually going back to the office. And this really touches on a cultural thing that we've mentioned a lot here at FS. And just because of post-COVID, so many people have kind of gotten out of the habit of going into a traditional office. There is a lot of nostalgia for those daily kind of routines. So we are seeing a lot of campaigns now and lookbooks take place in an office with an old school copy machine and like in a break room and things of that nature. So just wanted to bring that to the forefront as well. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Michael Leahy for a second to talk about one of his links. Hey, Michael.
Hi, everyone. I am always on the hunt for new music and new artists, new playlists, whatever. A little bit ago, I came across Beatportal, which is a separate site from Beatport, which is a streaming service similar to Spotify or something like that. But Beatportal is all about spotlighting emerging artists, emerging events, and not only do they do specific artists, but they do labels, they do brands, stuff like that. They're primarily, I would say, focused around techno, EDM, house, just a lot of dance music like that, which I really like. And I've been talking about the resurgence of that as well. But they have some indie spotlights and stuff like that as well. They're a really cool site to just kind of scroll around, look through different playlists that are curated by artists that they kind of give the keys to. They let them drive a little bit. And they'll do artist spotlights to get to know them a little more. They'll do some articles about up and coming scenes in different locations around the world. Overall, just a neat little resource to kind of find some things that probably weren't on your radar if you're looking for new music.
Yeah, I really like this. This morning, I actually plugged into one of the playlists. I wanted to play with it, and I thought it was great. It's really interesting, Michael, that you brought this to show and tell, because I read something, I think a couple weeks ago, how like there's a huge resurgence of niche music media, which has been lost after a lot of print publications are kind of gone. And, we used to have like Spin and all these other things, but like, are you kind of seeing a lot of that, like a lot of media where they're kind of diving into, not just the playlist, but these articles and this, kind of
Yeah,
discovery?
definitely. So like me personally, I like going to like techno shows and stuff like that. And a lot of venues and stuff around where I'm located, are usually, they don't have like a website or anything. They don't have any sort of main outlet to the public, and they usually just have like an Instagram account, which will drop the location or something like that. And I think that this site is a great way to kind of get hip to some of that quote unquote underground stuff that you might not have access to all the time, and is a really good way to put you on and as like a regulated source of media. It's kind of all collected and stuff in this one spot.
Yeah, I like it. So Beat Portal, everyone. Check it out,
Yeah.
play with it later today. It seems like it's really fun. Cool. All right, we're gonna do some demographic links here for a second. This is a New York Times article that I wanted to bring to your attention. I think in the last like 4 or 5 months, we've had a lot of links at Show and Tell, especially from the beauty team, which were focusing on buying trends of tween girls and how they're spending hundreds of dollars at Sephora and Ulta on, a lot of cosmetics and makeup that maybe at first glance aren't appropriate for their age. So on the heels of that, now we're finding a lot of research about how teen and tween boys are spending a lot of money on luxury fragrances. So we kind of wanted to present that as an interesting comparison or contrast to what we were seeing with the tween and teen girls. But it used to be that a lot of tween and teen guys basically just bought really basic fragrance from the department store counter, maybe even something from the drugstore, a lot of Axe body spray, etc. So it's really interesting to kind of see this. There's just kind of some generic pictures, but I want to read you some interesting details and stats. But according to a semi-annual survey of youth spending patterns by an investment bank called Piper Sandler, teen boys' annual spending on fragrance rose 26% in the year ending in March, just like a couple months ago. And a lot of the old school brands like Axe, Old Spice, Bath and Body Works majorly have fallen in the rankings of their favorite fragrance brands, whereas luxury brands like Valentino, Gaultier, Gucci, even Tom Ford have really climbed in the rankings. So doing some of this research, it's not just like showing off a cologne's highest price tag, but a lot of these young enthusiasts say that they want to cultivate this air of sophistication, and they feel like it's what separates, quote, the boys from the slightly older boys. They are researching all the terminology of fragrances. So there are examples in the article about these middle school boys. They're like doing sleepovers and they all bring their favorite high-end fragrances, and they actually like analyze the scents like a sommelier would wine, which I thought was just like crazy. It would have never happened when I was a teenager. No one cared about that kind of stuff. The fragrance category, just to remind you, pulled in $70 billion in sales last year, according to McKinsey. And a lot of these niche brands are now starting to really try to target the even younger consumers. Because for a long time, for years, you would just kind of wear what your dad wore because that's what you had access to. So it was a lot of Ralph Lauren and, just kind of more like generic fragrances. But now these Gen Z consumers and Gen Alpha consumers are more likely to shop around and actually find a lot of pleasure in discovering, new brands, which I think is just really, really interesting. And a lot of these brands think that if they can get the loyalty that early, that it's going to be really easy to capture them when they're in their 20s and their 30s. Just to throw a term out for you guys here, on TikTok, a lot of these younger tweens and teens are offering tips for, quote, smell maxing. And I know we've talked about the maxing term before when we talked about some other tween and teen boy trends, but this is called smell maxing. So they want to improve their scent, their musk. And they recommend scents for working out, for date nights, for school days. And so there's a quote by a 14-year-old here in the article, and he says, social media and TikTok have made people want to be more grown up. period. And as you read through the article, there are a lot of concerns about like some of the bottle shapes. Some of them are very sexual. Some of them are like, you know, bourbon glasses, like, you know, references to alcohol, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a really, really interesting article for you to dive into, just something to keep on your radar from a marketing perspective that these young kids want to be even more grown up than ever before. So we wanted to call that to your attention. And I think Jason's gonna talk about another segment of men right now.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Jason, the men's senior strategist. I barely had the money for my Abercrombie cologne when I was a tween.
I know.
I'm forward. But I love this day's article, and it's really trending right now. It dives into the social media discourse of categorizing different types of men based on their likeness to different types of animals or dog breeds. But with all the craze around challengers, there's now another category which men fall into, which is rodent handsome. Two of the most recent examples of these rodent handsome men are Challengers co-stars Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist, with many comparing the pair to Roddy St. James, who's the rat from Flushed Away, and Stuart Little, respectively. So being rodent handsome men is not an insult, it's a compliment. Rodent handsome men are usually more svelte than muscular and with more pinched angular features. And they're often not conventionally handsome, but this only makes them more hot. Plus, being a rodent handsome man also is more about your general vibe than physical attributes. Most rodent handsome men have a little je ne sais quoi about them. And much like rats or mice, they're a lot more intelligent than people give them credit for. So as this article concludes, it's time to take your golden retriever boyfriend to the vet and trade him in for a handsome rodent boyfriend.
And let me tell you, when Jason shared this with our team yesterday, I actually had not heard of this yet. And in 24 hours, I've texted him like 3 different memes because it's popping up all over my social media. I even found an article this morning saying the sluttiest thing a man can do is look like a rodent. So it's pretty fascinating. So
Love it.
thanks, Jason. All right, speaking of challengers, Michael's going to talk a little bit about tennis.
Yeah, our rodent superstars have helped tennis kind of shoot into the stratosphere here a little bit. I would say directly related to what Jason was talking about with challengers. Over the last month and a half since the movie's been out, tennis itself as a sport has been on the rise over the last couple of years. But this CNN article details just how much this sport has kind of been exploding and what it affects other than just the sport itself. So this is the brands that partner with tennis superstars. This is and in terms of like clothing and stuff like that, this is how players can benefit and get sponsorship deals. This is how unsuspecting markets like alcohol, I think there's like a little subsection at the bottom that says like booze or big business for booze, stuff like that. It details how tennis has sort of been put on the spotlight and brought to the forefront for a lot of people who were kind of like, I don't watch tennis. I have no idea what tennis really is about. Like, oh, just flipping through the channels, there's tennis. I personally know a bunch of people in my life that watched challengers and went and thrifted like a tennis racket and some tennis shoes and have been on their tennis grind, like not just a quick obsession, like they've really started playing tennis over the last couple weeks since the movie came out. It's been massive on social media and has sort of been terrorizing other sports in terms of drawing in new players and stuff like that with lessons, devoting their time, their money to this sport. So it's great for tennis, but I just thought it was very interesting how something so simple like a movie can kind of catapult the sport up into something that's like hip and cool and all over social media and something you want to be doing with your friends again.
I thought this stat at the end of the article was really interesting about how the U.S. Tennis Association wants to grow the number of people playing it to
Mhm.
basically 10% of the U.S. population within the next 10 years.
And each year they've had like exponential growth in terms of a lot of the metrics they use are like adults searching for lessons and buying equipment and stuff like that. And it's been pretty significant over the last couple of weeks, even since Challengers came out.
Yeah, and I know it's tennis adjacent, but there are still tons and tons of interesting collabs happening for pickleball. Target did a really great collab just last month with Friends, who of course is a legendary tennis brand, and it's all pickleball merch. Really well done, apparel and gear. It's actually still available. They put it like front and center in a lot of Target stores and still online. But it's really interesting. And those of you that have actually seen us present at Project at the trade shows, you'll hear us talk a lot about this kind of members only summer, which is a big trend going on right now. You can actually pop over to their Instagram, Magnet Instagram, and actually see some really cool reels that the FS team helped do, all about this kind of aesthetic for the summer. So it was really relevant to bring this, but thought that was great.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
Michael, actually, for
Also,
this next one,
Michael,
if you wanna move to the, I included an Instagram link next to it. Yeah, that might be easier
yeah,
for show
let's
and
do that.
tell. Um, I continuing on the little sports motion here. I absolutely love this account. They're called Art But Make It Sports. I personally follow them on Twitter or X now, and I think they have a bit more traction there than they do on Instagram. But it looks like they post most of their content onto their Instagram as well. It's as far as I'm aware, it's one guy primarily who runs the account, but he takes images from recent sports events, recent sports games, and he finds the artistic parallel to them, their counterpart. And some of this stuff is really incredible. Like the spot on matches that this guy brings up are, you just kind of like wonder how he does it. Um Through interactions on Twitter and stuff, it looks like this guy does this stuff all from memory. So it's just some guy who's crazy obsessed with all different mediums of art and crazy obsessed with sports. And a nice little detail too is how he always makes sure to credit the photographers themselves, not the like sports networks or accounts that they come from. It's always funny watching on Twitter him replying to an image at first with like, who's the photographer who shot this, and then everyone replies like, oh, he's cooking, like he's about to drop some heat, like everyone knows it's coming. So it's really fun to see. But if you're into sports or even art, this is a cool way to join both worlds and see some really impressive stuff.
I loved it. He posts a lot, so it's a
Does
lot of
he's
work.
extremely active.
Yeah, super cool. All right, and now we have a little pop culture here before we end our links for today. So Jason's going to talk about a upcoming mini series. Jason, I won't click on this yet until you describe.
Yeah, that Francis Bacon one really got me, Michael. So before we watch the little trailer, I want to share about Phantasmus, which is a new miniseries by comedian Julio Torres, premiering Friday on HBO. Features Julia Fox, Steve Buscemi, Emma Stone, Kim Petras, and many more. But for those of you who don't know, Julio Torres is like an oddball who's become known for his very specific niche brand of absurdist humor. And in it, he creates these fantasy parallel worlds full of these dreamy, kaleidoscopic colors and curiosities. Some of his previous work includes Los Espookies, a Spanish language comedy horror on HBO, and his most recent work, aside from this, is a work visa quest film called Problemista with Tilda Swinton. So this 6-episode series stars Julio as a fictional version of himself, following him as he navigates a dreamlike New York and searches for a lost earring shaped like a tiny gold oyster. Throughout his search, he encounters a whole city's worth of strange characters, and the result is a surreal, introspective deep dive into questions of purpose, meaning, and the nature of reality. So let's play it.
Hi, hello. I'm Julio. I'm an Aquarius. I got struck by lightning when I was a child, and now I see the world a little differently, and I'm allergic to the color yellow.
90 seconds remaining.
Okay, I've been having this recurring dream where I'm in a room.
God, I love insurance and banks and the military.
I can feel the inner lives of shapes and colors and sounds and numbers.
Put your hands together for Q.
You're all gonna die!
And then I wake up.
Oh my God. Girl, not my car driving.
This is going to be huge for you.
Hey, Fly.
What's going on in that little head of yours?
I'll come to your home when you least expect it. Don't talk to me when you talk to me.
Ew, what's that smell? Okay, let's stop.
I'm sorry, did you have a note?
I just see robot. And you are forcing her to overact. Is everything okay?
Jason, I think it's like the third or fourth link of his you've brought to show and tell over the years.
Yeah, big fan.
It's great. Thanks. All right. Well, my upcoming miniseries is also about a very absurdist person, but a real person. So Jason and I really like this series from I think like 3 years ago called It's a Sin. So the star, his name is Callum Scott Howells. He's gonna play this real life flamboyant aristocrat from the 19th century named Henry Paget. Those of you who are based in the UK, he may be familiar to you. He wasn't familiar to me. I'm actually going to bring up some real life pictures for you and just kind of tell you about this guy. I'm very much obsessed with him since I started kind of researching him for this meeting. But he was known for being this, this person who squandered his family fortune on like the best of the best, even like the world's largest collection of walking sticks and cakes and chocolates. And he was gender binary. He did cross-dressing. He was very theatrical. I'm going to scroll down here. It can kind of like scroll through some images of his while I kind of tell you about him. He died really young, actually, but he spent multi-million pounds. He died at a really young age at 29. His nickname was Toppy. And he was known for wearing these voluminous robes, fluid sexuality, gender identity, etc. And he was very much the black sheep of his aristocratic family. I thought this detail was super cool. There were details about how he detailed it was called a waff jacket, which was like a jacket you wore while playing ping pong. And he specifically had it made and encrusted with emeralds. And the emeralds matched the ping pong table, which would have like dazzled his opponents. He had all these pets that he had to sell because of his debt. He had a parrot named Jacko who could speak English, French, and Welsh. He had 30 dogs with names like Black Valentine and Marquess. And just it goes on and on and on. But basically, he got this reputation for a lavish lifestyle of spending. And what was so interesting is in his family's estate, he took the chapel and he converted it to a 150-seat theater. And that is where he did these really elaborate theater productions where he always was the main star, and he spent a lot of money on the programs and the costumes, and he even installed electrical lighting in the theater, which was just crazy. And I thought this really tidbit was really funny. In 1901, he was in London, and apparently his French valet took the opportunity to steal like 50,000 pounds worth of jewelry while he was away. And he was so distraught that he enlisted the help of Conan Doyle, who wrote all the Sherlock Holmes books, who was a friend of his, to help find the stolen jewels. So this guy just had a crazy life. He basically accumulated debts of 544,000 pounds, which would be like 70 million pounds in today's money. And he was completely bankrupt. So I don't know what this miniseries is going to be about, but I'm going to watch it because this guy seems like quite a character. Read his Wikipedia if you're not familiar with him. I thought it was fascinating. So I would love to see his TikTok if he were alive today. So anyway, and then our last link today, I think Michael is going to close it out.
Yeah.
And
This is searchsystem.co. I'm not super familiar with it, but I've been messing around with it for a little while. It's basically just this industrial design oriented or more like curated archive. It's relatively open source from what I can tell. Like people can submit images or items in a similar fashion, like a Pinterest board or something like that. But if you just scroll through, Michael, like there's a bunch of different interesting designs and stuff like that. And if you like click on one random thing, they usually have like a very bare bones breakdown about when something was posted, what the designers are, the tags, stuff like that. But it's been good for me to just kind of scroll through and get a bunch of CMF inspiration, some different color inspo, some different design inspo, and just kind of see what's out there. I think it's a pretty neat resource to play around with.
Yeah, different well of inspiration. So that's really cool. Sandra, I see your comment. You say it's all about men this time. It's because every month we choose 2 teams to present, and we're the men's team. So we are presenting links that we are inspired by. But we are done, and we're going to move it over to our amazing colleagues on accessories.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anush. I'm the director of accessories here, and I'm joined by my teammates, Charlotte and Amelia. My first link, no rodents, but a very exciting niche little fashion show that I saw on the internet. This first link is from the Tashkent-based brand J. Kim, who hosted her first fashion show in the Uzbek capital. Jania, the designer, collaborated with the Ukrainian designer Anton Belinsky to create her first unisex collection. And I love the idea of this kind of intimate, small show where they had about 50 guests come in to Uzbekistan. And it felt like a very welcome contrast to the massive destination resort shows that we're seeing that a lot of the big brands are doing and basically taking over cities. So just a little peek at her. And it's also worth pointing out, this is a small designer that is making her way without being one of the being in one of the major fashion capitals. Something refreshing about that sentiment, and honestly gives me hope that there are alternative avenues for young brands like hers to thrive in a landscape that is seemingly so dominated by big brands. So this is just a little peek at her
I
show.
want more of this. Oh, Anush, did you just see our very own Lily Barilovich? This is where she was born.
Cool. Amazing.
Didn't know that.
Full circle here.
Yeah. I want to see more of this kind of stuff. This is great.
My second link goes to Jay Kim's Instagram, where you can see more of what the brand is up to. And Jania was born in Uzbekistan to a Korean family and raised and trained in Moscow before returning to start her brand about 10 years ago. And her background and ethos of cross culture is really evident in the techniques that she employs that are often influenced by humble everyday items like those quilted mattresses that Michael just showed, these kind of bundles of fabric that you see at bazaars in the country. And Uzbekistan seems just the right place for someone with her melange of culture, language, and customs, which is obviously integral to the region. And the country is also well known for its artisan traditions, including Suzani embroidery, woven ikat fabrics, and mulberry silk production, some of which she works with. So lots to dive into. I'm a huge fan. Don't want to gatekeep her, so please go check her out.
And she's on Essence, it looks like.
She is on Essence. She has about 8 global retailers that they're working with, so still pretty small, but they're doing their thing and they're making it happen. So it's pretty amazing to see this from a small brand, woman-owned brand especially.
Yeah, it's great.
My next link is a digital white paper called Skin Deep: Perspective on the Evolution of Digital Identity that was put together by Studio Halia, which is a creative collective that explores the touch points between accessories, tech, and identity. And there's several articles and interviews diving in to this huge topic on tech, some from Auguste Panzoni, who does trends at Depth to Stock, and digital creators like Helena Dung, who has done some AR work for the likes of A24, Nike, and Prada. And so this paper gets into a lot of topics touching on how we curate every aspect of our digital lives, shifting ideas about luxury, digital self-expression, and wearables, and filters, and how that is influencing cosmetics, which is something the beauty team is definitely speaking about, and also something we saw at the Maison Margiela Couture show earlier this year. Would definitely recommend checking out the piece, What Does Your Face Say About You?, which speaks to the history of social signaling through facial adornments that extends far beyond aesthetics, and how that is going to be necessary during this new digital age. So we touch on a lot of these ideas in our 2026 macro trend, Amplified Being, and what it means to expand our sense of self through technology. So lots to get into here as well. I definitely recommend taking some time and reading through. It's a lot to digest.
Can we just talk about this site design? If more white papers were designed like this, I mean, it definitely gives me the feeling of an old school magazine. I'm really obsessed with it. So
Yeah,
beautiful.
but still feeling like very current and digital
Yeah.
in this moment, which I think is like kind of hard to accomplish. So they've done an amazing job with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to dive in. It's really nice.
My final link is just a little nature pause after the tech talk. And this comes by way of Nowness. And I saw it a while back, but I was recently speaking to a friend who just returned from Morocco, and he's in the travel industry. And the first thing he mentioned was, while the cities are amazing, definitely try to get out into nature and the mountains. And this video was created by German photographer Thomas Lohr, who was traveling through the High Atlas last year, and he encountered local Amazigh indigenous men who were professional guides wearing their traditional jalabas, as well as well-worn Salomon performance footwear. So this photographer then was inspired to return with Salomon and make a little visual vignette about these guides and their approach to trekking and their connection to their culture. So because Salomon footwear is literally everywhere, I cannot overemphasize that at this moment. I really appreciated how this was sort of a genuine way that the brand still focused on performance, but shared these kind of authentic stories. So if you want to play a couple seconds of it.
Sorry, Anush, got stuck. Hold on.
No worries. We don't have so much time, and I want to make sure Charlotte and Amelia get a chance. So please, everyone, definitely check out the video. It's beautiful and really nice to see brands kind of telling these more authentic stories. And I think Charlotte, you're on next.
Yes, thanks, Anush. So hi, everyone. I'm Charlotte. I'm an analyst on our accessories team. So the first link I have is on this really cool womb-like installation by artist Annabelle Schneider. And it was constructed as a part of New York City Design Week in May. And it's titled Breathe With Me. So in an industrial warehouse in downtown Manhattan, this amorphous womb-like structure was created from soft textiles that would actually inflate and deflate to mimic the motion of breathing. And it was synchronized to this polyrhythmic soundscape produced by Luke Ogier to really give the feeling that you are back in the womb. And inside and around the structure, you could find seating and furnishings by an array of Swiss designers, as well as these really airy, translucent textiles lining the windows and the walls, which I think was a really cool contrast against this industrial space. But I think the most interesting part about this installation was that it was actually commissioned by the Consulate General of Switzerland to showcase Swiss design and provide visitors with a relaxing space to retreat to during Design Week. So I just think it's fascinating that the designer chose to go this route with it. She talks a bit about mental health in the article and how spaces like this really celebrate the idea of slowing down and connecting with ourselves and with others as well, and essentially promotes the idea of returning to our roots and our origins, quite literally in this case. So I just thought this was a really cool way to go about designing a space for relaxation. And Michael, there's a second link to the Instagram that has a couple more pictures and a video as well. And I'm sure many of us have seen Succession, but if anyone remembers the episode with Kendall's insane birthday party, where they had to walk through the womb room and down the birth canal tunnel to get to the venue, that was the first thing that came to mind for me when I found this, but definitely from a more curated design perspective. And I personally would love a chance to hang out in there. I think it would be surprisingly healing.
This is cool. Some of us just did a huge project for a really big brand that you all would know. And we talked a lot about like how would design look if it was translated as breath work in many ways.
Yeah.
We were talking about apparel and footwear, but this is so cool to see a surrounding that is also like that. Jason Kress, not to put you on the spot, but I know that you actually went to see this recently. Anything to add to your experience?
No, not really. The pictures really do it justice. It's definitely making it into my color pitch later this summer.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, those pastels were so beautiful, especially with the industrial space. Awesome. So yeah, my next link is to an Instagram account called Endless Spiral. And honestly, I don't know much about the people behind this account. It seems to have kind of just materialized, but it's described as an endlessly spiraling artistic dialogue between sisters a sea apart, or in other words, a spiral fan account. So it's exactly that. It's a collection of spirals spotted in art and decor and nature, and just out and about. And for the most part, all the sources are either listed or tagged. So it serves as this great database for cool imagery and finding new artists or designers. And of course, the spiral itself holds a ton of historical and religious significance, especially in ancient mythology. It serves as a symbol of intuition, of spiritual development, and our overall connection to nature and the universe as a whole. But at one point, the account asked their followers on their story, what do spirals mean to you? And all the answers are highlighted up at the top. But a lot of people spoke about evolution and life cycles and love and rebirth. But one of my favorites said the ongoing cycle of everything. It may repeat, but it moves forward as it does. So I really love that. And any FS members here know I did a whole pitch day presentation on spirals, their influence in accessories, home decor, and beyond. So they're very near and dear to my heart. But it's really cool to see just how prevalent they are through this account. And I personally feel like it's always a good omen whenever I see one out in the wild. So hopefully you will as well.
Charlotte, did you happen to watch the most recent season of True Detective on HBO, Night
I
Country?
haven't yet, but I know there's a spiral situation. Someone told me about it.
Yeah, it's it's indigenous people in Alaska, but the spiral, actually I think the spiral also was from previous seasons of True Detective. But it's a major image throughout the season. So
yeah, I got to get on it. I'm very excited to watch it. I was putting it off so I could binge it, but I think it's all out now. So
yeah, cool, love that.
Thank you.
Amelia, you're up.
Hey everyone. So I'm a senior strategist on the accessories team, and my first link is actually a movie trailer. So I'm gonna try my best to kind of give a little intro to it. It's a little difficult to summarize. I have seen it, but I kind of struggled a little bit trying to like find the words for it. So La Chimera is the latest film by the Italian director Alice Rohrwacher. So the director kind of grew up in central Italy, so a lot of her films kind of take place in that area. And her films, especially this one, kind of delve into this magical realism themes, which can be pretty complex and aren't really easily categorized like as like a film genre. So that's kind of where the confusion of explaining it comes in. But essentially this movie takes place in the 1980s. And it's centered around Arthur, who is played by Josh O'Connor, who was mentioned as a hot rodent boyfriend earlier. And he's kind of this like dejected British tomb raider who lives in rural Italy, and he uses these like mystical forces to find buried treasures. So he's kind of like an archaeologist of sorts, maybe without the qualifications. And he leads this like misfit group of grave robbers to illegally dig up and sell Etruscan artifacts, which date back like over 2,000 years. So the story is kind of like, it's not a very like linear narrative, but it emerges in bits and pieces, and just doesn't kind of, it's like a slow reveal as you watch the movie. It's really beautiful. And it kind of explores themes of our relationship with the past, supernatural elements, and these kind of like blurred lines between like reality and myths and dreams. And something I really loved about it was that it kind of like goes into the ethics, not like overtly, but like a little like under the surface of like digging up ancient graves and like were these things meant to be seen and like taken out? Like we're so used to seeing like, you know, like things from like ancient Greece and like Egypt and like the Met and any other museum, but like essentially they were taken from a person's grave. So it's kind of like an interesting just a thought to have while watching the movie. So you could play a bit of the trailer.
Signore, sta sognando?
Era un mezzo mago. Così ce lo siamo portato con noi. Tutta quella bellezza, i vasi, l'oro. Tutto lasciato lì per un mondo che non si sapeva neanche se c'era. Il mondo delle anime.
Cerco la signora Flora.
Te l'avevo detto che sarebbe tornata. E guarda chi c'è. Tra l'altro il mio unico amico. Talia, grazie. Mangia. She wants to hear what we say.
Se vuoi posso farti un corso accelerato in italiano.
Vedremo d'occhio.
Incantesimo.
It's of inestimable value. That's what we're here for, to estimate the inestimable.
Rubare le cose delle anime! Vi maledico!
Non ti perdere d'animo. Tu trovi sempre tutto, eh?
We need to talk.
Ma che hai fatto a questo? Ma si sente male?
Adesso ti facciamo vedere delle cose che nemmeno gli archeologi se le sognano.
I mean, he can play tennis, he can speak Italian. What can't he do?
Yeah, he's the whole package.
Also, he was just cast in the new Knives Out movie that's about to start production as well. So it's definitely his year and a half after being on The Crown too.
Totally. So kind of going along with like the same theme of like unearthed, objects and stuff. I've been really loving this jewelry designer and artist. Her name's Emily Frances Barrett, and she works in East London. So she's a self-taught jeweler, kind of who more so like works like intuitively with a variety of materials, from like ranging from like precious stones and metals, like the classic materials, to found objects. So essentially, like your trash is her treasure. She works in things like bottle tops, flower buds, shells, feathers, sea glass, and even like old cigarettes, which she probably, I guess, like encases in resin. And then she kind of collages them together on sculptures and jewelry pieces. So she finds these things in like a range of places, from like junk shops to just on the street, and even she goes mudlarking in the Thames, which is essentially when you go into a body of water that has, the Thames used to be like essentially people just like throw their trash in it for centuries. So if you kind of dig through the riverbed and like the mud, you can kind of find like broken pieces of pottery, glass, really anything. You can find really old stuff. So I think that's where she kind of collects a lot of her things. And I feel like her like artistic approach is kind of akin to patchwork, as you can kind of see here.
So beautiful.
And she kind of layers these like archaeological materials and turns them into like something more refined. And I feel like her craftsmanship kind of has this like really raw energy to it. It feels very like intentional and personal, and you can see like where she placed each thing is very like on purpose and kind of makes it fit together perfectly. And everything's really like unique, one of a kind. But she has like a really like specific aesthetic, even though everything's kind of like found and random. So yeah.
So pretty. I read an article like I think last year about how now you can actually get an official license to kind of dig through the riverbanks of the Thames and whatnot, whereas before it was very much, I guess, like illegal or something. I don't know, but like now
Yeah.
people can do it properly because so many people are using it for art and for things like that.
Mhm. It's gotten really popular. I've even seen some people trying to do it in like I don't know if anyone's heard of it, Dead Horse Bay in Brooklyn. But it's like there's a lot of chemicals there. I don't know. I think the Thames seems like the right place to do it if you have a license.
It's great. There was any of you that are in the New York area, there was a couple who were magnet fishing somewhere in like Queens yesterday, I believe, and they found an old safe that had over $100,000 in cash in it. They took it to the police. It wasn't connected to any crime, according to them, so they got to keep it. But I thought magnet fishing was a really interesting term that I also was not familiar with.
That's amazing.
So archaeology and boyfriend rodents, those are the two themes for June show and tell. Hope you guys had fun. Thanks, team. That was really fun. Again, just a reminder, we will see you on Wednesday, July 10th, not the first week of July because of the holiday. And we'll email you later this week with a recording of today and all the links, and see you next month for for another show and tell. Thanks everyone for joining us. That was fun. Bye guys.